Hello and welcome, this is Rooflemonger, and my friends, a Mortal Kombat 11 patch just kind of dropped out of nowhere. So obviously we were expecting some kind of patch to coincide with Joker, to be sure, but hey, we got some changes here. So we do have a lot of the usual stuff you expect, bug fixes and like. Some of these things are improvements to AI logic, fixing desyncs, more brutalities are always pretty cool, stability improvements, all that kind of stuff, right? But we do have quite a few changes that definitely affect the gameplay flow and do affect how the game just works. So we have a couple system level style changes and we have a few character specific changes. The universal gameplay changes, some of them are pretty big, and we'll go over that in a second. And also the character balance changes, while there are some significant ones, it's not a giant sweeping balance patch. Not every character has, giant game changing stuff, but still, let's go over it here and let's start with the universal changes. So let's start at the start here for the universal changes and let's talk about the fatal blows. So first and foremost, and this is a big one, Fatal Blow armor. Now I know all you guys know the startup of a Fatal Blow does have armor. The armor now starts later. So the armor on the startup of your Fatal Blow no longer happens now until frame 8. So it used to be frame 5, and now what does this mean? This 3-frame differential, right? Well, the big thing is now if you're the kind of person, or you're fighting the kind of person that's very prone when they are knocked down, they get up and they just jam on that Fatal Blow button, it is much easier just to stick out any kind of button and just smack them and just knock them right out of it. It is not going to be as difficult to stuff any kind of Fatal Blow in any kind of situation now. That is basically the long and short of it. So if you are or are fighting the kind of person who just jams on that Fatal Blow when it's time to, just do your wake up and all that kind of stuff here, well then, man oh man, they're in for a rude awakening because it's just not going to work the same way it worked before. The Fatal Blow, well, it will still have its uses defensively, absolutely, and you can still use it in like kind of hard call-out situations. It is definitely much less reliable as just like a panic button, and just that's kind of the long story short. So if you are a fan of more solid play and just hate the rago just Fatal Blows out of nowhere and getting armor through and all that, this will definitely help curtail that. Also, to quickly note here, Fatal Blows, it also states here, can no longer hit behind the character except for Cassie Cage. That one will put it in a wait and see kind of thing. Because I've been hit so many times by Geras Fatal Blow from like way behind him. I've been scarred. It's like PTSD, right? So if they finally got rid of that, that's awesome. But yeah, so if you're in a situation where you're clearly behind the enemy and they start their Fatal Blow, you should no longer, as of this patch, be able to get hit by that Fatal Blow. And either you'll smack them out of it or at least hit them in their armor frames, but you won't just get magically vortexed and sucked in and get hit by the Fatal Blow anyways. Now, another very big change here. This universal is down 1, 3, and 4, so basically all your low pokes, can no longer be special canceled on flawless block. So, say if I were to do something like this, like down 1 into Sun Uppercut, which is not really something you do for Kotal, but just bear with me right here. So now if we go into our practice modes here, and we turn on flawless blocking here. So now everything's going to be flawless blocked, and hey, I can no longer special cancel. Now, the one thing to note about this here, some characters it's going to affect more than others, but since we have Kotal here, as an example for Kotal here. So down 1 into command grab is a tick grab, right? It's a big part of his game plan, it's a big part of his setups here. And if the enemy is now going to flawless block my down 1, well then the tick grab simply cannot come out anymore. So once again, this will affect certain characters certain ways. It's not going to be as big of a deal for certain people. But if you're a fan of a poke into a special cancel, basically beware, because if you get flawless blocked on your poke now, your special cancel will not happen. So next up here for some universal changes, talk about Jump 2. That's one of your just basic jumping attacks, right? And Jump 2 has 5 less frames of blocks on unblock and flawless block. Now, in practice, really, you're still always going to be plus, so don't worry about it. It's just a little bit less of frame advantage. But one thing to note here, so Jump 1 and Jump 2, so both of your jumping attacks here, can no longer be cancelled into aerial special moves when flawless blocked. So similar to the poke change. So once again here, using Kotal as an example here, I could just go like jump 1, air jaguar, right? And it's a natural combo. Now, if the enemy chooses to flawless block this now here, and we set them to flawless, I can no longer special cancel into air jaguar no matter what. Be it jump 1 or jump 2, the special move is not going to happen. Now, that's not the end of the world, because, hey, I'm still advantage on block for the most part, right? But if, say, for whatever reason, this was super key and you needed that aerial special cancel, it's not going to happen. Special cancels can no longer happen off a jumping 1 or 2 on flawless block. Also, the note on top of aerial special moves, you can't cancel into anything grounded as well if you are flawless blocked after your jump 1 or 2. So say something as basic as this, right? I just go jump 2 into 1, 2. It's my usual chain, right? So say the enemy doesn't block it, then it's a very solid like hit confirm combo for me, that kind of stuff, right? Easy peasy. But if they jump, or rather you jump and you get flawless blocked here, your buffer will get eaten and nothing comes out. As you can see here, I'm inputting 1, 2 when I land. Nothing comes out. Just stop dead to rights. So basically, all forms of aerial offense are just blunted if your jumping attacks get flawless blocked. So now let's talk about jump kicks. So just like jump punches, they had some changes. First and foremost of which here has increased damage scaling, meaning if you manage to do a jump kick in a combo or as a combo starter, then your combo will scale out a bit more than usual, and also for more frames of recovery when blocked, meaning more jumps are more likely to be negative from a wider variety of ranges. Like, so Kotal exactly here, like if I hit from roughly this distance here, this would be usually 0 or -1 on block, right? And now, as you see here, -7, -6, -4, jumps, kicks, across the board are more negative on block. Now, you still can make them plus. Like, if you do a very deep jump kick, you will still be advantaged, right? But now there's a lot more risk inherent to the jump kick, since if you want to do it at the usual ranges, you know, top of someone's heads before, you are definitely negative on block now, and potentially even punishable depending on how high up you do it. You have to do a very deep jump kick to be plus now, and the deeper your jump kick, then the more likely you are to be anti-aired. Now, speaking of which here, just like jump punches here, if your jump kick gets flawless block, no air special cancels. And also, here's a very, very big one here. Jump kicks can no longer be canceled in the grounded special moves on landing when flawless blocked or regular blocked. So here, once again, that's why I picked Kotal Kahn, because we're using Kotal Kahn examples. So jump kicks were special cancelable on block, right? And you think, well, what does that matter? Like, for someone like Kotal Kahn, it was simple as this. I would do my jump kick, and if it hit, awesome, whatever, like forward 1, 2, combo out, all that stuff, right? And if it was blocked, since it was special cancelable, I'll go right into the command grab. And on most jump angles, if I cancel my jump kick on block into a command grab, if you don't immediately jump, you're done. Like, you can try to hit like a fast button and down one or whatever, and I'll still grab you out of it, because once again, this grabs the mid. So that kind of stuff just no longer works. I can no longer special cancel my jump kick on block into a special move. So gimmicky stuff like that no longer works, and I'm sure there's a million gimmicks I don't even know of that this also gets rid of. But jumping attacks across the board are definitely toned down a bit, and jumping kicks especially, man, the more negative on block change is a big deal, because most jump kicks now, the way you'd want to use them before, are going to be negative now instead of plus. So you really got to think a lot more carefully about how you're going to use a jump kick. So our next universal change here is something that doesn't affect people universally. It has to do with throw crushing blows. So if you are a kind of character has one on your forward throw, crushing blow that is, and one on your backwards throw, the change is this. You only get the one. So if you say I use my backwards crushing blow here, if I then go for my forward throw crushing blow, it's not going to come out. So you only get one of the two per game, that's it. So if you're like me and we're a Kotal Kahn and collector player and very used to having two throw crushing blows on deck, well, you're kind of SOL, unfortunately. So you get one and cherish it. But once the one is used up, be it your forward throw or your backwards throw, that is it. You will not get the other one for the rest of the game. So you still have the utility, I guess, of having the two, because you can still, you know, make people guess which tech you want to go for. But unfortunately, once you use it up, it's donezo. Only one throw crushing blow for you. Now for another set of changes here. This is definitely not gameplay technically, but still interesting enough here. The Kronika stages here, so Hourglass, Chaosian Age, and Prehistoric Age, they're now like the tournament stage in that they are good for random background items. So hey, here I am on the Kronika stage here, and hey, what's this ghostly skeleton in the background? Hey, what's this ghostly Tarkatan doing in the background? It's because, hey, this is the Tarkatan War Camp stage, and I can use your interactables just like that stage. So you go to practice options here, and when you're on one of the Kronika stages here, you can set it to be anything. So like a Cyber Linkway assembly here, and then, hey, wouldn't you know it, we're on that stage. So it just basically, I don't know, these stages are always a little bit dull in my opinion, so it gives them a little more zazz, a little more razzmatazz, whatever you want to say. Here we are, Cyber Linkway assembly, so I can start tossing my bombs. But yeah, so just more stages to have more random interactables, and hey, that's kind of cool, I guess. It's something, you know, not earth-shatteringly game changer or nothing like that, right? But hey, I think it's kind of neat. And of course, we do have some character balance changes. So this is not a major balance patch in terms of like, you know, sweeping changes for across the entirety of the cast, but there are some major changes to be sure. Now to note, a lot of changes are bug fixes and just like minor tweaking of hitboxes, a lot of them on Wake Up Up 2s. Once again, the patch notes are linked in the video description if you want to see the full details. I'm just going to be going over the major changes as they stand. And with that said, hey, let's start with old Cetrion. So the big change here with Cetrion is with the teleport. So Cetrion, very well known for just being very annoying on a lot of parts of the screen, all that. And certain versions of her teleport take a bar, right? Defensive bar. Now, Far H2O port takes both of your defensive bars. So before it used to take just the one, and now it takes both. So this is definitely a very big hit to Runaway Cetrion. Because losing both your bars, man, that ain't nothing. That is not nothing, right? Yes, it was very annoying because it's hard to get good Cetrion lockdown. This is one of the reasons why, right? But yeah, takes both your defensive bars. Can't even do it if you don't have two full bars, right? So if you get comboed, just forget about any breakaway or anything because that is not going to happen. But yeah, this is a significant nerf to say the least to take both of your defensive bars for Far Port. It's a strong move, and you really have to mean it now when going for Far Port, because losing those two defensive bars, that's a big punch in the gut. Erron Black, not the biggest changes in the world here. So Stand 2, this guy here, now recovers 3 frames faster on block than was previously. And Stand 2-1, this little double 2-in-1 combo here. So Stand 2-1 now has 5 more frames of block stun and 5 more recovery frames slower on block, which is kind of a net 0 change, but still is what it is. So just some little tweaks here for Erron Black. So Frost got some tiny buffs here to Cryogenic Crown. That's this guy here where her head pops off. So the base move itself does more damage. It does 30 points of damage versus the usual 10 it used to do. Also here it has decreased combo damage scaling, meaning you do more damage in a combo than you would otherwise before. So hey, nice little buff there. And also on top of that, it has 2 more active frames, meaning the explosion part of it is out for 2 more frames than it was before. So it's just a little bit more likely to catch someone. So Geras definitely took a hit. But Geras is Geras, so don't be scared. There's no amount of nerfs that will never make Geras not a good character. Geras will easily survive these nerfs. Don't you worry about that. But nerf number 1 is Wake Up Up 2. Wake Up Up 2 now has slower startup. So now it takes 9 frames to start up versus the 6 frames it used to take. So basically, it's possible to get away from this move. You can actually like knock him down and have a chance to walk out before he catches you. The move is much more in line with other wake-up attacks. It's still absolutely one of the best wake-up up 2s in the game, so don't you worry about that, right? It's still very good. It's just now a little bit more in line with how the rest of the game works versus being on an island in and of itself. Geras' Jump Down 2, the old Zangief Body Splash here, his Jump Down 2 now has 5 less frames of block stun. So the enemy recovers just a smidge quicker, although don't worry, it is still stupid plus. doesn't really affect much. Not really a nerf of any real consequence because he can still do all the same stuff he did before. But technically, on paper, it's a nerf. So some of the big changes here are forward 2-1 and forward 2-1-2, this guy here. So forward 2-1 specifically here has 4 more frames of hit advantage, 5 less frames of recovery on hit, and the cancel occurs a frame later. Special cancel frames, that is. So basically, it's just easier to use it in hit confirm situations as far as I can tell. A little bit more reliable as a hit confirm, and hey, that's awesome, right? Good for Geras. But here comes the nerf. Here comes the hammer. So forward 2-1-2. I'll let you look at the frame data here before I say what it is. So forward 2-1-2. -6, huh? You might recall, this definitely didn't used to be -6. So forward 2-1-2 now has 25 startup frames here. The third hit has more startup frames. It's up from 20. And recovers 3 frames slower. So now this move used to be an all-star ward, was barely a negative on block, and you can definitely feel the more negativeness in here. Being -6 as well, you can't flawless block immediately afterwards now, so that's gone. And just generally speaking, it's a pretty big nerf to this string, to say the least here. It's still a good enough string, to be sure, right? It's not garbage or anything, right? But it is no longer the old dominant thing where even after you block it, you can still easily flawless block you afterwards and then up to and go from there, right? So it is no longer the dynamo it used to be. And Geras, all of his sandpit moves here, sand trap, quicksand, all that kind of stuff, when it is flawless blocked, it is now more negative on block than it used to be. So from certain distances, you know, it's still very difficult to punish, to be sure, but it is now more negative on block if you flawless block it. So, Variation 3, Johnny Cage. Definitely made a big splash once he shown up, because, hey, his fireballs are ridiculous. And the fireballs have been changed just a little bit. So, both upwards and lower fireball in Variation 3 now have 11 frame startup versus the 9 frame startup they had before. So, it's not a massive game-ending nerf, to say the least. But it certainly makes them a lot less absurd up close, to say the least, right? Because they're no longer 9 framers. So, pretty reasonable change in my opinion. Also, his wake up 2. So when he's knocked down, his wake up 2 also now is 9 frame startup from 7. So similar to Geras here, kind of normalizing it, bringing it more in line with other characters. So just basically some of the Johnny stuff's just a little bit slower, but it still works the same way it worked before. So Johnny's still Johnny. So Kitana, only one real change note here that's not like, you know, under the hood stuff, which one's going to check the patch notes for that. Back 1-4, this guy here is now mids all the way through. Every hit is now a mid. Other than that, that's the only real change. For Kotal Kahn here, the Metazequia cut, that's just this guy here, down 4-2. The variations that don't have Sun Uppercut. So the cut now has 2 more active frames, 3 less recovery frames, and causes 5 more frames of block stun with increased pushback when not flawless blocked. Now, just so you know, that doesn't mean it's safe up point blank. Don't get that idea. You will still die point blank. But generally speaking, what this does mean is from the tip of the move, you can be more safe here, like -12 from this distance is safe against a giant bulk of the cast. Not everybody, but for the most of the cast here, it's safe enough. So you are more incentivized to use this kind of as a mid-screen poke on top of, like, you know, 4-2 and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's not going to be a game changer, at least I don't think it is, but it gives some value to a move that kind of was value-less, as you actually have at least some mild use of using it as a poke now, because it's not just instant death on block at the range you'd use it at the tip of the move. So for Kung Lao, the change doesn't even affect any of his competitive variations. This is for a move that's not in the competitive tournament variation. But yeah, Possessed Hat now throws 2 hats. I guess that's what makes it Possessed. The second hat is a Ghost Hat. So yeah, if you could actually use this move in a competitive variation, I'm sure this would actually be super cool. But you can't. But still, hey, he throws 2 hats, and one of them's a literal Ghost Hat. So there you go. That's the change for Kung Lao. And for Skarlet, Far Bloodport, much like the same as Cetrion here. Far Bloodport now takes both of your defensive bars. Now, Bloodport is definitely not something I would consider on the level of Cetrion's teleport, due to Skarlet just not being as good as Cetrion. But I guess they felt the need to have an inline similar change. So the Skarlet Bloodport Far version now takes both defensive bars, just like Cetrion's teleport. And those are the major changes of the patch. Once again, a lot of the smaller stuff here that doesn't really matter for competitive gameplay, like, you know, a lot of the little bug fixes and all that stuff. That's in the patch notes, and I'll have the patch notes linked in the video description. So as it stands, I was kind of hoping for a more sweeping change, because, you know, people like Shao Kahn still really need help, right? Maybe that will come with the spawn patch, but as it stands, these are the major changes that we have. Joker will be out not too long from now. He'll be out for Kombat Pack owners on the 28th, which is basically this time next week. And hey, I'm looking forward to it. Joker looks pretty cool. But as it stands, that is everything for this patch, and thus everything for this video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. Go out and play some Mortal Kombat.
Oh, yeah.